I got these sunglasses underneath the Eiffel Tower. They were left on the grass near us by some people who were talking about how high they were, and how much better the Eiffel Tower looked when they were stoned. I saw that they had left these sunglasses on the ground, and usually I would rush to pick it up and give it back to whoever had left their stuff there. Unfortunately for them, though, that Karma was telling me to keep these sunglasses. And I believe Karma made a correct decision. I needed new ones anyway. My friend also found €5 from where they were sitting. She didn't give those back either. There was a stage for about half of the Euro tour in which I had €5 in which to spend for both lunch and whatever else I wanted to buy each day, simply because both of my accounts were not working for me. Eating and shopping were difficult, but I have to admit, I found my way around such things. This is a label of Duff beer. Duff beer is a real thing here. Apparently they have them in Germany, though I didn't find actual Duff beer that I could buy until I reached Venice. And turns out it tastes really good. Not that I drank any. I feel a little bit ashamed to admit that my experience with my Europe tour involved accidental theft. See, the story is, we were in Venice, and one of the restaurants we happened to be at was fairly high class. And as a joke, my friend Steve, the Indian, decided to put a knife in my jacket, and as he expected me to put the hood on when I left the building because it was raining. Unfortunately for both of us, I never put on the hood, although that's probably a good thing considering it was a knife and it would have landed in my head, which is poor thinking on Steve's part. But when I did return to my hostel that night, I had found the knife in my jacket. And we never returned anywhere near there again, so I got a free knife and accidentally stole from a very high restaurant in Venice. This is a magnet version of a Venetian mask. It's fairly accurate as a description as to what they look like. And turns out, although we knew masks would be a vast part of our experience in Venice, we didn't quite realize exactly how big against us tourists. Anywhere we walked that had any tourist potential in Venice was absolutely filled with street stores, filled with masks. Beautiful, crazy, inspired designing masks. And although they were gorgeous to look at, after a while it inevitably became quite tiring to see so many. But did I buy one? No, because I was still living off €5 a day, and the cheapest mask I could find was €8. And given €2 to somehow find some food, and then €3 to try and buy something for both my family and me, buying a real Venetian mask was out of the question. This is a pile of postcards from each country in which I either bought them or found them for free in stores, which they do quite often here in Europe. And obviously, since I'm holding them, you can tell that I haven't sent a single one of them. Most of them are blank. Some of them do have writing on them. I meant to send them out. I hopefully will one day, but of course, if you do receive one of these, it'll be a postcard with a German stamp because I forgot. Sorry. Although we spent most of our time in Italy, I believe, my biggest experience as a country was probably France. France was a big thing for me, even before I actually entered France, simply because it was my first preference as a country before the unsettlement came and I went to Germany instead, which I have no regrets about because Germany is absolutely brilliant. But of course, I had high expectations of France. And a lot of people have said very different things about France that I've heard of. So I really was quite confused as to what France would be like, and I was very excited to go there. I have to admit, France didn't let me down at all. First stop in France was Nice, which was incredible. The weather was brilliant, and we went to the beach for the first time in 2 months for me. Though I knew it would be stones, I didn't realize exactly how large these stones were going to be. Although these probably look like eggs on the camera. This is an Eiffel Tower. Not the Eiffel Tower, but an Eiffel Tower. Why did I buy this Eiffel Tower that has absolutely no use other than being a replica of the Eiffel Tower? Because a gypsy sold it to me, and I said I don't want it. But he wouldn't stop following me, so I bought it. It did become useful, though, in fighting off any other gypsies that wanted to sell me one. Entering the Czech Republic, and Prague particularly, because that's the only place we actually stayed in the Czech Republic because it's so small, I had no real expectations because I'd never actually planned to go to the Czech Republic. I just never really thought about the Czech Republic. One, Prague is probably the first and hopefully the most intimidating place that I will ever or have ever been to. It's intimidating in the sense that, one, you don't know the language, and two, you don't know the money system, and three, everyone there scares you. Probably not intentionally, but they do. First night in Prague, we saw 10 police cars. And not just wandering around, like patrolling police cars. I'm talking signal lights and sirens blaring, rushing somewhere into the darkness police cars. 10 of them. There's also something to do with the lighting of Prague. The street lights there seem to be incredibly yellow compared to anywhere else. And if you put that with the incredibly old infrastructure and the gold gilded roofs and the overhanging stone structures of most of the buildings, it actually makes quite an intimidating place, especially after dark. Prague is also very beautiful. Like I said, it has amazingly gilded and mosaic buildings. Although, that being said, with the beautiful buildings, no matter how scary they were, and the over yellow lighting, it made for quite a romantic, though not in a loving sense, place. Another side to Prague is the fact that they have the biggest discotheque in all of Central Europe. That was my first experience at a proper discotheque, and it was mind-blowing. Let me describe the biggest discotheque in Central Europe to you. This building had 5 floors, and every single one of those floors had a different discotheque. The first being the bottom layer, in which we stayed most of our time in, being the radio hits layer. That's typical disco music that's current in the radio and things that we knew the words to. The second layer is dance music, which is more music without any words, and although had a really cool setting with lasers, was a little too small for the whole 49 of us to go in and dance at. The third layer was oldies music, which apparently is anything before 1989, which, now that I think about it, is quite a while ago. But still, that was the oldies music level. The fourth level was techno music, and the fifth layer at the very top of the stairs was black music. That was the title, not what I'm describing it as. All the floors had titles. That was that one. And the music in there was that sort of music, I guess, which made it very difficult for the next discotheque that we ended up going to ever live up to something like that, which it didn't. Our last city to stay at in Italy was Florence. And unfortunately for Florence, it had a lot of factors going against it in terms of making it a good impression on 49 exchange students from across the world. The first being that it came straight after Rome. Rome and its horrible weather that happened while we were there is the basis of a lot of us getting very, very ill. 2 days of straight rain and no real ability to get properly dry and have all your clothes properly dry, especially me, who only packed 1 pair of shoes, left a lot of us feeling quite ill. And irritable people never really take in the atmosphere as positively as non-ill people. Another factor going against it was the biggest highlight for us in Florence was to be another disco going. And of course, after Prague's disco being the biggest in Central Europe, you'd have to be a very good disco to be able to live up to that. And unfortunately, to the one we went at, it wasn't all that great. It at exactly 12 in the morning, they decided to put on a live band, which in a discotheque is basically unheard of. And it would have been okay had this band been any good. Unfortunately for us, though, the band that they decided to put on involved a man with a ponytail jumping around the stage, calling out in Italian, and a woman who changed her wigs, um, except every single wig was bright purple, and the music was absolutely horrendous. Although they did have followers, I saw at least 5 die-hard fans on the dance floor when they were on. And on the other floor, it consisted of 2 floors. One floor was there purely to escape the live music, and on that floor was karaoke. And to add to that, poor Florence, the hostel itself was absolutely gorgeous. Um, but to get to anywhere, we had to walk at least an hour, which is usually okay, but going there to the discotheque, it took us 2 hours, and on the way home from the discotheque, we got lost. And not just me as an exchange student, I mean the entire group got lost. So from 3:30 in the morning until 6:30 in the morning, we found ourselves wandering around the back streets of Florence trying to find our way home. So essentially, that means we spent 5 hours walking to equivalent 3 hours of trying to dance. On a positive note, though, walking from 3:30 in the morning to 6:30 in the morning gave us the perfect time frame to see not only non-touristy side of Florence and the back streets of Florence, we also saw a very beautiful sunrise while we sat on the side of the road waiting for a taxi to pick us up. And of course, the day after, which was our full day to spend in Florence, I spent every single moment of that day in the hostel on top of the hill, asleep in my bed, trying to recover from both Rome and the walk from the night or the morning before. And so that's kind of it, really, I guess. I could sprout a lot of really quick facts right now. In Paris, the waiter hand-fed me snails. Also in Paris, the head cook found out that I was Filipino and decided to bless me in front of everyone by kissing me on the forehead. I found 5 Australians in one hostel in Nice simply by going around saying bloody hell, mate, and having them react. My JVC camera, which I got for Christmas, was broken on the very first night of the tour while we were still in Germany. How was it broken? It was in my jacket pocket and I was sitting down and my jacket was on the floor and someone stepped on my jacket. I got lost for an hour in Vienna on my own. I got lost for 2 hours in Venice with somebody else. And we all got lost in Florence. I stood on top of the Arc de Triomphe. And in Belgium, I ate the best waffles of my life. As far as I can go other than that, that's kind of all that really happened on Eurotour for me. I hope you liked my really quick recount. And hopefully I will be talking to some of you soon. And if not, then I miss you and see you later.